Kolade's eyes widened as he saw Cynthia. He couldn't help but admire her beauty. Once Cynthia had left, Kolade turned to Yemi with a playful grin. Yemi, your maid is quite a sight to behold. I think I enjoyed that more than the drink. He joked. Yemi laughed and shook his head. Once upon a time, in a peaceful village called Ayetoro, there lived a young man named Yemi. Yemi was known throughout the village for his kindness and hard work. He had a small farm where he grew vegetables and fruits. Every morning, he would get up early to tend to his crops, making sure they grew healthy and strong. In the same village lived a beautiful young woman named Tolani. Tolani was gentle and caring. She loved helping others and was always seen with a smile on her face. She lived with her parents and helped them with their small shop where they sold clothes and fabrics. One sunny morning, as Yemi was on his way to the market to sell his vegetables, he saw Tolani carrying a heavy basket. Without thinking twice, he rushed over to help her. "Let me carry that for you," he said with a warm smile. Tolani thanked Yemi and the two walked together to the market. As they talked, they discovered they had many things in common. They both loved nature, enjoyed helping others, and believed in the goodness of people. From that day on, Yemi and Tolani became good friends. As time went by, their friendship grew stronger. They spent more time together, sharing stories and dreams. Yemi admired Tolani's kindness and beauty, and Tolani admired Yemi's strength and generosity. It wasn't long before they realized they were in love. One evening, under the bright moonlight, Yemi decided to express his feelings. He took Tolani to a quiet spot near the river, where they often sat and talked. "Tolani," he began, his voice soft and sincere, "I have something important to tell you. You are the most wonderful person I have ever met. I love you with all my heart, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Tears of joy filled Tolani's eyes. She smiled and replied, "Yes, Yemi, I love you too, and I can't imagine my life without you. I will marry you." News of their engagement spread quickly through the village, and everyone was delighted. The villagers came together to help Yemi and Tolani prepare for their wedding. There was music, dancing, and lots of food. It was a celebration of love and happiness. After they got married, Yemi and Tolani moved into a beautiful house that Yemi had built. They were very happy and loved each other more with each passing day. Yemi continued to work on his farm, and Tolani helped him while also making beautiful clothes that she sold in the market. Years went by, and Yemi and Tolani's love remained strong. However, there was one thing that troubled them. They had not been blessed with children. In their village, children were considered a great blessing, and many people wondered why Yemi and Tolani did not have any. Yemi's family, especially his parents, began to worry. They loved Tolani but believed that Yemi needed to have children to carry on the family name. One day, they called Yemi to a family meeting. Yemi's father spoke first. "Yemi, we love you and Tolani very much, but it has been many years and you still have no children. This is not good for our family. You need to send Tolani away and marry another woman who can give you children." Yemi was shocked and saddened by his father's words. He looked at his parents and said firmly, "I love Tolani with all my heart. She is my wife, and I will not send her away. Children are gifts from God, and if it is His will, we will have children, but I will never leave Tolani." His mother tried to convince him, saying, "Yemi, we understand your love for Tolani, but you must think about our family. Without children, our family line will end." But Yemi was unwavering. "I have thought about this, and my decision is final. I will stay with Tolani no matter what. We will pray and hope for children, but I will never send her away." Yemi's family was disappointed, but they saw the determination in his eyes and knew they could not change his mind. Yemi returned home and told Tolani about the meeting. Tolani was deeply touched by Yemi's unwavering love and support. She hugged him and said, "Thank you, Yemi. I love you so much. We will face this together and we will continue to hope and pray for a child." And so, Yemi and Tolani continued their life together, their love growing stronger each day. They faced many challenges, but they always supported each other, knowing that true love can overcome any obstacle. After the meeting with his family, Yemi continued to stand by his beloved wife, Tolani. He assured her that their love was more important than anything else and that he would never leave her. Despite Yemi's unwavering support, Tolani couldn't help but feel a growing fear inside her heart. She was deeply worried about not being able to give Yemi a child, and this worry began to weigh heavily on her. Every night, when Yemi had fallen asleep, Tolani would kneel and pray to God, asking him to remember her and bless her with a child. She would cry softly, not wanting to wake Yemi, and plead for a miracle. "Please, dear God," she would whisper, "please bless us with a child. I don't want to lose Yemi." As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, Tolani's worry and stress took a toll on her health. She started feeling weak and tired all the time. She could no longer manage the household chores as she used to, and even simple tasks became difficult for her. Yemi noticed the change in his wife's health and grew concerned. One evening, as Tolani lay resting, Yemi sat by her side and gently held her hand. "Tolani," he said softly, "I can see that you are not well. I believe you are stressed from all the work at home. I want to help you, so I've decided to hire someone to assist you with the chores." Tolani looked at Yemi with tired eyes and nodded. "Thank you, Yemi," she said weakly. She was grateful for his thoughtfulness and hoped that having someone to help would ease her burden. The next day, Yemi went to the neighboring village to find a maid. After talking to several people, he found a young girl named Cynthia who was looking for work. Cynthia was beautiful with bright eyes and a warm smile. She seemed kind and willing to help, so Yemi decided to hire her. When Yemi brought Cynthia home, Tolani was lying in bed, trying to gather her strength. Yemi gently introduced Cynthia to Tolani. "Tolani, this is Cynthia. She will be helping us with the housework from now on." Tolani smiled weakly at Cynthia and welcomed her. "Thank you for coming to help us, Cynthia. I hope you will feel at home here." Cynthia smiled back and assured Tolani that she would do her best to help. From that day on, Cynthia took over most of the household chores. She cooked, cleaned, and made sure everything was in order. Tolani was grateful for the help and felt a little less burdened. As time went by, Tolani couldn't help but notice Cynthia's beauty. Cynthia was not only kind but also very graceful in everything she did. Tolani admired her and sometimes felt a pang of insecurity, but she quickly pushed those thoughts away, reminding herself that Yemi loved her deeply and would never be unfaithful. Despite her worries, Tolani's resolution remained strong. She knew that Yemi's love for her was unwavering and that he had stood by her through difficult times. She decided to focus on her health and continue praying for a miracle, trusting that everything would work out in the end. As the days passed, with Cynthia helping around the house and Tolani slowly recovering her strength, Yemi continued to support Tolani, and their love remained strong. They faced their challenges together, hoping and praying for better days to come. One sunny afternoon, Yemi's best friend, Kolade, decided to visit him for a chat. Kolade and Yemi had been friends since they were children. They shared many memories and always enjoyed each other's company. Kolade was cheerful and loved to joke around, which always made Yemi laugh. When Kolade arrived at Yemi's house, Yemi greeted him with a big smile. Kolade, my friend, it's so good to see you, Yemi said, giving him a warm hug. It's great to see you too, Yemi, Kolade replied, smiling back. They sat down in the living room and began to catch up on each other's lives. After some time, Yemi decided to offer Kolade a drink. Kolade, let me get us something to drink. Yemi said, that sounds great, Kolade replied. Yemi called out, Cynthia, please bring some drinks for us. A few moments later, Cynthia walked into the room carrying a tray with drinks. She gracefully placed the drinks on the table and smiled at Kolade and Yemi before leaving the room. Kolade's eyes widened as he saw Cynthia. He couldn't help but admire her beauty. Once Cynthia had left, Kolade turned to Yemi with a playful grin. Yemi, your maid is quite a sight to behold. I think I enjoyed that more than the drink, he joked. Yemi laughed and shook his head. Kolade, you and your jokes. My wife Tolani is more than enough for me. I would never stoop so low to have anything to do with the maid, Yemi replied, chuckling. Kolade joined in the laughter. I know. I was just teasing you, my friend. They both laughed and continued to joke about the matter, enjoying each other's company as they always did. As they chatted and laughed, the bond between them remained strong. Kolade knew that Yemi was deeply in love with Tolani and respected him for his loyalty and dedication. Their friendship was built on trust and mutual respect, and they knew they could always count on each other. The afternoon passed quickly, filled with laughter and stories. Kolade eventually had to leave, but he promised to visit again soon. Yemi waved goodbye to his friend, feeling grateful for the light-hearted moments they shared. And so life continued for Yemi, Tolani and Cynthia. Despite the challenges they faced, they found strength in their love and the support of good friends. Few days after Kolade's visit, Yemi found himself thinking about what his friend had said. Kolade's joke about Cynthia being beautiful kept playing in his mind. Yemi had always been a faithful husband, deeply in love with Tolani. But now, he started to notice Cynthia more and more. At first, Yemi tried to brush these thoughts aside. He reminded himself of his love for Tolani and his commitment to her. But as the days went by, Yemi found it harder to ignore his growing attraction to Cynthia. He began to watch her as she walked around the house, admiring her grace and beauty. One afternoon, when Tolani had gone to the market to buy food, Yemi found himself alone at home with Cynthia. He could feel his heart beating faster as he thought about Kolade's words. He decided to talk to Cynthia. Cynthia, Yemi called out as she was cleaning the living room. Yes, sir, Cynthia replied, looking up at him with her bright eyes. Come sit with me for a moment, Yemi said, patting the seat next to him. Cynthia hesitated for a moment, but then sat down as Yemi had asked. She felt a little nervous, not understanding why her boss wanted her to sit with him. Yemi tried to make small talk, asking Cynthia about her day and her family. But as they talked, Yemi found himself drawn to her more and more. Before he knew it, he started making advances towards her, complimenting her looks and touching her hand gently. Cynthia was taken aback. She never imagined that Yemi, who seemed devoted to his wife, would behave this way. She quickly stood up and stepped back, trying to keep her composure. Sir, I need to get back to my work, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Yemi felt a pang of guilt but couldn't stop thinking about Cynthia. Over the next few days and weeks, his advances continued. He would find reasons to be close to her, to touch her, and to compliment her. Each time, Cynthia grew more afraid and confused. She respected Yemi and Tolani and never thought she would find herself in such a situation. Cynthia didn't know what to do. She needed the job and didn't want to cause any trouble. But she also didn't want to encourage Yemi's behavior. She felt trapped and scared, unsure of how to handle the situation. The tension in the house grew. Yemi struggled with his feelings, knowing deep down that he was betraying Tolani. Cynthia felt increasingly uncomfortable and fearful, not knowing how to protect herself from her boss's unwanted advances. Cynthia felt more and more confused and scared by her boss Yemi's advances. She didn't want to upset her madam, Tolani, or lose her job, but she also couldn't continue to ignore Yemi's behavior. Cynthia needed to talk to someone about what was happening before things got worse. Cynthia had a boyfriend named Okuchi. They had been seeing each other even before she started working as a maid for Yemi and Tolani. Okuchi was a clever and resourceful young man, and Cynthia trusted him deeply. She decided to confide in him and ask for his advice. One evening, when Cynthia had a chance to be alone, she called Okuchi on the phone. "Okuchi, I need to talk to you. It's urgent," she said, her voice trembling. "What is wrong, Cynthia?" Okuchi asked, sensing her distress. "It's about my boss, Yemi," Cynthia began. "He has been making advances towards me. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but now I'm sure. He's been touching my hand and complimenting me. I'm scared, Okuchi. I don't know what to do." Okuchi was silent for a moment, thinking about what Cynthia had said. Then he smiled mischievously. "Cynthia, this might be our chance," he said. "What do you mean?" Cynthia asked, confused by his reaction. "Listen," Okuchi said, lowering his voice. "We can use this situation to our advantage. If Yemi wants to be with you, we can make him pay for it. We can extort money from him, and with that money, we can build our lives together and finally be together too." Cynthia was surprised by Okuchi's suggestion. She had never thought of such a plan, but as she listened to him, she began to see the potential in it. "You really think it can work? Do you think we can do that?" she asked, still unsure. "Yes, we can," Okuchi replied confidently. "We will make him believe that you are willing to go along with his advances, but we will demand money in return. He won't want his wife to find out, so he will pay to keep it a secret." Cynthia thought about it for a moment. She was desperate to find a solution to her problem, and Okuchi's plan seemed like a way out. "Okay, Okuchi, I will do that. Let's use this opportunity to make a better life for ourselves." Okuchi smiled, feeling pleased with their plan. "Good. We will take this step by step. I will guide you through everything. Just remember to stay calm and follow my instructions." Cynthia agreed, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. She knew it was a risky plan, but she trusted Okuchi and hoped that this would lead to a better future for both of them. With a new plan in their mind, Cynthia prepared to face the days ahead, determined to turn the situation to her advantage. Yemi was unaware of Cynthia's plan and continued to make advances towards her. Cynthia, reluctantly accepting her boyfriend Okuchi's plan, decided to go along with Yemi's advances. She knew that this was the only way to achieve the future she and Okuchi dreamed of. One day, when Tolani went out to the market, Yemi approached Cynthia. "Cynthia," he said softly, "I can't stop thinking about you. Please, let's spend some time together." Cynthia hesitated for a moment, but then she remembered Okuchi's words. "Okay, Yemi," she replied, trying to sound sincere. "But we must be careful. We can't let anyone find out." Yemi agreed, and they started seeing each other whenever Tolani was out. They would have the house to themselves, enjoying each other's company in secret. Sometimes, Cynthia would tell Tolani she needed to visit her parents. Then, she and Yemi would meet somewhere else away from praying eyes. During these secret meetings, Cynthia would tell Yemi one lie or another to get money from him. Yemi, my family is in trouble. She would say, we need money to fix our house. Yemi, blinded by his desires for Cynthia, would always give her the money she asked for. Here, take this, he would say, handing her the money. I want to help you. Cynthia would thank him and promise to continue seeing him. Everything was going according to Okuchi's plan, and Cynthia felt a mix of guilt and relief. She knew what she was doing was wrong, but she also believed it was the only way to secure a better future for her and Okuchi, her boyfriend. Tolani, meanwhile, remained unaware of what was happening in their house. She trusted Yemi completely and had no reason to suspect anything. She continued to pray and hope for a child, believing that everything would eventually work out for the best. As the days turned into weeks, Yemi and Cynthia's secret relationship continued. They became more careful, making sure that Tolani never found out. Cynthia would sometimes feel a pang of guilt, but she remained herself that this was for her future with Okuchi. Yemi, lost in his infatuation, failed to see the consequences of his actions. He believed that he could keep his affair with Cynthia hidden from Tolani forever. But he never knew that secrets have a way of coming back to light, and the truth would eventually catch up with them. And so, life in Yemi and Tolani's house went on, with one secret growing bigger and more dangerous each day. The secret affair between Yemi and Cynthia continued. Whenever Tolani wasn't looking, Yemi would wink at Cynthia, making her feel uneasy yet committed to their plan. Whenever Tolani tried to scold Cynthia for any mistakes, Yemi would always fight for her. He would always find an excuse for her. It's not Cynthia's fault, he would say, defending her actions. Tolani noticed these things and began to feel uneasy. She couldn't understand why her husband would always fight for Cynthia. Every time she wanted to correct Cynthia for something, Yemi would step in and say everything was fine. This unusual behavior started to worry Tolani. She began to imagine all sorts of things in her head, wondering if there was something between Yemi and Cynthia, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. One day, Tolani found Cynthia had left the kitchen in a mess after cooking. Cynthia, you need to clean up this kitchen, Tolani said, trying to remain calm. Before Cynthia could respond, Yemi walked in. Tolani, it's okay. Cynthia had been working hard. I will help her clean it up, he said, smiling at Cynthia. Tolani's worry grew deeper. Why was Yemi defending Cynthia so much? She started to feel like she was overthinking things, but the feeling wouldn't go away. She began to doubt her own thoughts and felt conflicted. On one hand, she trusted Yemi and loved him deeply. On the other hand, something didn't feel right. After a few days of feeling this way, Tolani decided she needed a break. She wanted to clear her head and figure out what was really bothering her. One evening, she sat down with Yemi and said, Yemi, I think I need to visit my parents for a while. I need some time to clear my head. Yemi looked at her with concern. Is everything okay, Tolani? He asked, trying to hide his nervousness. I'm just feeling a bit overwhelmed, Tolani replied. I think spending some time with my parents will help me feel better. Yemi nodded, trying to appear supportive. Of course, Tolani. Take all the time you need. I will take care of things here. Tolani felt a bit of relief knowing Yemi was understanding, but she still couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling. She hoped that a visit to her parents would help her sort out her thoughts and bring some clarity. Tolani prepared to leave for her parents' house, hoping that sometime away would help her find peace and understand what was really going on in her home. Deep down in Yemi's heart, he was excited that Tolani was traveling. He saw it as an opportunity to explore more with Cynthia without any interruptions. On the day that Tolani was to leave, Yemi helped her with her bags and drove her to the park, where she would catch the bus to her parents' house. He kissed her goodbye and wished her a safe trip, hiding his eagerness for her departure behind a mask of concern and love. Once Tolani was gone, Yemi rushed back home, eager to be with Cynthia. The house felt different without Tolani's presence, and Yemi and Cynthia found themselves with the freedom they had been longing for. Cynthia, feeling emboldened by Tolani's absence, started to carry herself as if she were the madam of the house. She moved around freely, taking charge of the home, and enjoyed the attention Yemi lavished on her. However, Yemi had no idea that Cynthia was also seeing her boyfriend, Okuchi, behind his back. Whenever Yemi was at work, Cynthia would find excuses to leave the house and meet with Okuchi. They would talk about their plans and dream of the future they wanted to build together with the money they were extorting from Yemi. Within a short period, Cynthia discovered she was pregnant. She was initially shocked and worried about how this would affect their plans. When she told Okuchi about the pregnancy, he asked her who was irresponsible. Cynthia, knowing it could be either Okuchi or Yemi, decided to tell Okuchi that the baby was his. Okuchi, however, saw this as an opportunity to get more money from Yemi. He told Cynthia to pin the pregnancy on Yemi so they could extort more money from him. Cynthia, following Okuchi's plans, went to Yemi and told him she was pregnant. Yemi was both afraid and happy. The news of the pregnancy brought a mix of emotions. He was happy because he had always wanted children, but he was also afraid because he knew the complications it would bring, especially with Tolani. Cynthia, on the other hand, was scared of Tolani's reaction if she found out. She was worried about what would happen when Tolani returned and discovered the truth. Yemi, sensing her fear, assured her that he would protect her from his wife. He promised that no harm would come to her and that he would take care of everything. Yemi's reassurances brought some comfort to Cynthia, but deep inside, she still felt uneasy. The secret they were keeping was growing bigger and more dangerous, and she knew that eventually the truth would come out. For now, they continued their affair, living in the moment and hoping they could keep their secret hidden a little longer. Yemi and Cynthia continued their affair, with Yemi pampering her even more because of the pregnancy. He bought her special foods, took her to doctor's appointments, and made sure she was comfortable. Cynthia, enjoying the attention and the luxuries Yemi provided, felt more secure in their plan. She was careful to keep seeing Okuchi without Yemi knowing, feeling confident that everything was going as planned. Meanwhile, Tolani was spending time with her family, trying to clear her head. She enjoyed the rest and the comfort of being with her loved ones. After some time, she began to miss Yemi and their home. Feeling that she had rested enough, Tolani decided to return home. She wanted to surprise Yemi, so she didn't tell him that she was coming back. She imagined his happy face when he saw her unexpectedly. On the day of her return, Tolani arrived at the house quietly. She opened the door and entered the living room. Everything was quiet, which she found a bit strange. She thought Yemi might be out, or maybe he was resting. She decided to go to their bedroom to leave her bags and freshen up. As Tolani opened the bedroom door, she was met with the shock of her life. There, on their matrimonial bed, were Yemi and Cynthia. Together, Tolani's heart sank, and she let out a loud shout. "Yemi! Cynthia! What is going on here?" she screamed. Yemi and Cynthia sprang up to their feet, their faces pale with shock. Cynthia was so afraid that she ran out of the room immediately, leaving Yemi to face Tolani alone. Yemi tried to man up, but he could see the hurt and betrayal in Tolani's eyes. Tolani began to cry uncontrollably. How could you do this to me, Yemi? After all we've been through together, how could you betray me like this? She sobbed, her voice full of pain. Yemi tried to reach out to her, but Tolani pushed him away. Don't touch me. I trusted you, Yemi. I loved you with all my heart. How could you? She cried. Yemi stood there, unable to find the words to explain himself. He had never seen Tolani so heartbroken. He realized the gravity of his actions and the deep wound he had inflicted on his beloved wife. Tolani continued to cry, feeling a mixture of anger, sadness, and betrayal. She had never expected this from Yemi, the man she had loved and trusted so deeply. The shock of finding him with Cynthia in their bed was too hard for her to bear. Meanwhile, Cynthia hid in another part of the house, terrified of the consequences of being caught. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew that things would never be the same again. Tolani felt like her world had been turned upside down. She had come back home hoping to surprise her husband, only to find herself faced with the most painful surprise of her life. For about a week, Tolani grieved deeply over what she had discovered. Her heart felt heavy, and her mind was filled with questions and pain. Yemi, on the other hand, tried to act normal around the home. He felt that it was time to tell Tolani about Cynthia's pregnancy and his plan to marry her. One evening, Yemi decided it was time to break the news. He found Tolani sitting quietly in the living room, lost in her thoughts. Without much emotions, Yemi called out to her, "Tolani, we need to talk." Tolani looked up, her eyes still red from crying. She wondered what more he could say to hurt her. "What is it, Yemi?" she asked softly. Yemi took a deep breath and said, "Cynthia is pregnant for me." Tolani's eyes widened in shock. "What? When did this happen, Yemi? How long has this been going on?" She tried to ask, her voice trembling, but Yemi cut her off, not wanting to explain or feel more guilt. "It doesn't matter when it started, Tolani. The important thing is that Cynthia is having my child," he said firmly. "My decision is final. You should be happy that someone is able to give me what you haven't been able to give me for years now." Tolani felt a sharp pain in her chest. The man she had loved and trusted was not only unfaithful, but now planned to bring another woman into their lives because of a child. Tears streamed down Tolani's face as she tried to process Yemi's words. The betrayal felt deeper than ever, and she felt completely broken. Yemi stood there, looking at her without any sign of regret or compassion. The room was filled with silence, broken only by Tolani's soft sobs. She had never imagined her life would come to this, and now she faced a future that seemed uncertain and filled with pain. Tolani became a shadow of herself, surrendering to sorrow and constant weeping. She felt utterly betrayed and lost, unable to find comfort in anything. Meanwhile, Yemi was feeling more confident about his decision. He told Cynthia that he had informed Tolani about their child and that his plan to marry her. Cynthia beamed with joy at the news, feeling victorious. She no longer worried about Tolani and started carrying herself around the house with more confidence and authority. She no longer cared about Tolani's feelings and began to make unnecessary demands, knowing that Yemi would back her up. Yemi, who felt guilty but convinced himself that he was doing the right thing, made Tolani attend to Cynthia's needs. Whenever Cynthia asked for something, Yemi would turn to Tolani and say, "Tolani, please, get this for Cynthia," or "Tolani, Cynthia needs your help with this." Cynthia took advantage of this situation to send Tolani around the house, giving her tasks and treating her like a servant. Tolani, feeling helpless and confused, just played along. She was too heartbroken to fight back and didn't know what else to do. As days turned into weeks, Cynthia became carried away with the attention and the power she was getting from Yemi. She enjoyed the flow of things and began to forget about Okuchi, her boyfriend. She was just enjoying her new life and the privileges that came with it. Cynthia's behavior grew more brazen. She would insult Tolani at will, mocking her for not being able to give Yemi a child and calling her names like barren and a witch. Tolani bore the insult in silence, her heart breaking a little more each passing day. Yemi, blinded by his own desires and guilt, didn't see the full extent of Cynthia's cruelty. He continued to believe that he was doing the right thing by supporting Cynthia and the unborn child, ignoring the deep pain and suffering he was inflicting on Tolani, his wife. And so the household lived in this uneasy balance, with Tolani becoming more withdrawn and sorrowful, Cynthia basking in her newfound power, and Yemi oblivious to the damage he had done. Tolani became very confused with everything going on in her home. She felt lost, not knowing what to do. Her once loving and peaceful home had turned into a place of constant sorrow and pain. Every day was a struggle, and she didn't know how much more she could take. One evening, when Cynthia and Yemi went out, Tolani remembered Yemi's sister Lola. Lola was the only family member who had always loved and supported Tolani. She had been kind and understanding, and Tolani felt that if anyone could help her, it would be Lola. With trembling hands, Tola picked up her cell phone and called Lola. When Lola answered, Tolani could barely speak. "Lola, it's me, Tolani," she said, her voice breaking. "I need to talk to you." Lola immediately sensed that something was wrong. "Tolani, what's the matter? Are you okay?" she asked with concern. Tolani couldn't hold back her tears any longer. She started sobbing, and through her tears, she told Lola everything. She explained how she had found Yemi and Cynthia together, how Yemi had told her about Cynthia's pregnancy and his plans to marry her, and how Cynthia had been treating her like a servant and insulting her in her own home. As Tolani spoke, Lola listened in disbelief. She couldn't believe that her brother would ever do such things to Tolani, who had been nothing but a loving and devoted wife. Lola's heart ached for Tolani, and she felt a surge of anger towards Yemi and Cynthia. "How could Yemi do this to you?" Lola said, her voice filled with fury. "This is not right. I can't believe he would betray you like this." Tolani continued to sob, feeling a bit of relief in finally sharing her pain with someone who cared. "I don't know what to do, Lola. I'm so lost," she cried. Lola tried to calm Tolani down. "Tolani, listen to me. I promise you, I will get to the root of this matter. I won't let Yemi and Cynthia continue to treat you this way. You don't deserve this," she said firmly. Tolani felt a glimmer of hope. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she wasn't completely alone. She knew Lola would do anything in her power to help her, and that gave her a bit of strength to carry on. With Lola's promise to help, Tolani found a small light in the darkness. She knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but also she knew that she had someone on her side who truly cared about her. That evening, when Yemi returned from strolling with Cynthia, he noticed she was tired. Cynthia quickly fell asleep, leaving Yemi alone in the quiet house. As he sat resting his head, Tolani sobbing softly in her room. The sound of her pain pierced his heart, filling him with remorse and guilt. Despite everything, he still cared for Tolani and hated seeing her suffer. Yemi approached Tolani's room and found her coiled up on the bed, crying. He didn't know what to say to comfort her, so he just stood there silently stroking her hair. The touch was gentle, and it brought back memories of happier times. One thing led to another, And before they knew it, they were in each other's arms, seeking solace in a moment of intimacy. Afterward, Tolani came to her senses. She realized she had let her emotions get the better of her and quickly got up. Feeling a mix of confusion and regret, Yemi too was silent, unsure of what to say or do. The moment had passed, but it left a lingering sense of complexity and unresolved feelings between them. A month later, Tolani discovered she was pregnant. The news came as a shock, filling her with a mix of excitement and apprehension. She didn't know how to feel about it, given the circumstances. But amidst all the confusion, she found a glimmer of hope in the thought of becoming a mother. Tolani decided to call Lola and share the news with her. Lola was happy and supportive, expressing her joy at the news. However, Tolani pleaded with her to keep it a secret for now. She wasn't ready to deal with the reactions of Yemi or Cynthia, and she needed time to think about what to do next. With the new development, Tolani felt a spark of hope amidst the turmoil of her life. She knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but she was determined to find a way to navigate it for the sake of her unborn child. Lola thought deeply about Tolani's situation and realized that in her present condition, Tolani didn't need any more mental stress. Determined to talk some sense into her brother, Lola decided to visit Yemi and confront him about his actions. One evening, Lola arrived at Yemi's house. Both Tolani and Yemi were surprised to see her. Cynthia, who didn't know who Lola was, stood in the corner, watching with curiosity. Lola gave Cynthia a sarcastic look, one that showed her disapproval. She then excused her brother to a corner, wanting to speak with him in private. Lola confronted Yemi, asking him why he would treat Tolani so poorly. She couldn't understand why he had chosen that maid, Cynthia, to torment his wife. But Yemi interrupted her before she could finish. He shouted at his sister, telling her that he expected her to be happy that he was soon going to be a father, and that she should thank Cynthia for making it possible. Lola couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her brother's words were like a slap in the face. In disbelief, she stood up and left the room, feeling both angry and saddened by Yemi's response. She had a brief conversation with Tolani, trying to offer her some comfort and support, and then left the house, feeling more determined than ever to help her sister-in-law. Tolani watched Lola leave, feeling a mix of gratitude and sadness. She appreciated Lola's support but was disheartened by Yemi's refusal to see reason. The situation seemed more complicated than ever, and Tolani knew that she needed to find a way to protect herself and her unborn child from the ongoing turmoil. Okuchi started to worry. Cynthia had been avoiding him, refusing to see him or even take his calls. He felt desperate and decided to call her from someone else's phone. When Cynthia answered the call, Okuchi immediately asked why she hadn't been responding to him. Cynthia had no explanation, her mind racing to come up with excuses. Sensing her hesitation, Okuchi threatened to expose her if she thought she could outsmart him. From that moment on, Okuchi would call Cynthia at any time, and each call left her restless. She was constantly sneaking around and hiding to take the calls, afraid that Yemi might overhear something. The pressure and fear of being exposed weighed heavily on her, making her more anxious and paranoid. Yemi started noticing the secretive phone calls Cynthia was making. He began to wonder who was always calling her and why these calls made her so uncomfortable. His suspicions grew as he observed Cynthia's nervous behavior and her attempts to hide her conversations. One evening, Yemi decided to ask Cynthia about the calls. Her response was curt and defensive, saying it was no one important. She tried to cover up the anxiety with anger, but Yemi could see through her facade. However, he chose not to push further for the moment, considering her pregnancy and not wanting to cause additional stress. Despite his decision to hold back, Yemi couldn't shake off the feeling that something was fishy. He started paying closer attention to Cynthia's actions and behavior, trying to piece together what she might be hiding. Meanwhile, Tolani continued to feel isolated and overwhelmed by the situation at home. She clung to her hope that her pregnancy would bring some change. But with Yemi's growing suspicion and Cynthia's increasing restlessness, the household remained in a state of tension and uncertainty. The days turned into weeks, with each passing moment adding to the strain. Cynthia's secretive calls and Yemi's suspicions created an atmosphere of unease. Tolani, feeling the weight of her circumstances, tried to stay strong for the sake of her unborn child, while Lola continued to offer her support from a distance. The delicate balance of the household was teetering on the edge, and it was only a matter of time before everything came to a head. The secrets, lies, and unresolved tensions threatened to unravel the fragile peace that remained. Cynthia sensed Yemi's suspicions growing, so she decided to stop taking Okuchi's calls again. Okuchi, feeling frustrated and unable to bear it any longer, decided to visit Cynthia at her boss's house. He arrived while Cynthia was sleeping. When he knocked on the door, Yemi answered, surprised to see a stranger. Okuchi introduced himself and asked after Cynthia. Yemi, curious and wary, allowed him to explain. Okuchi started talking about his plan with Cynthia to extort money from Yemi and pin the pregnancy on him to get even more money. He revealed that the baby Cynthia was carrying was actually his own child. Okuchi explained that he was there because Cynthia was trying to outsmart him, and he wanted to set things straight. As Okuchi's voice grew louder, it startled Cynthia awake. She came outside to see what was happening. Tolani, hearing the noise, also came out to see what was going on. Yemi couldn't believe what he was hearing. His mind raced with the realization that he had been fooled all this time, tormenting his innocent wife for nothing. He sat down speechless, overwhelmed by shame, anger, and guilt. The revelation hit him hard, and he didn't know what to say. Cynthia, seeing the situation unravel, stood frozen, unable to defend herself. The truth was out, and there was nothing she could say to change it. Okuchi, feeling victorious, looked at Cynthia and told her that he gave her until tomorrow to bring his baby to him. With that, he left, leaving everyone in a state of shock and disbelief. Tolani, who had heard everything, felt a mix of emotions. She felt a glimmer of hope for herself and her unborn child, but also a deep sorrow for the betrayal she had experienced. She looked at Yemi, who was still sitting in stunned silence, and wondered what would happen next. The household once again was filled with tension and uncertainty. The secrets and lies had been exposed, but the path forward was still unclear. Yemi, Cynthia, and Tolani each had to face the consequences of their actions and the new reality that had been revealed. Tolani couldn't keep the new development to herself. She needed to share it with someone she trusted. She decided to call her sister-in-law Lola to update her on what had happened. Tolani's voice trembled as she recounted the shocking revelation about Cynthia and Okuchi's deceitful acts. Lola was taken aback, unable to comprehend that Cynthia was capable of such betrayal. As Tolani poured out her heart, tears streamed down her face. She expressed her deep hurt, revealing how Yemi's action had caused her immense suffering for nothing. The pain and betrayal she felt were overwhelming. She told Lola that Yemi had hurt her so badly that she didn't think she could stay with him under the same roof anymore. Lola listened empathetically, understanding the depth of Tolani's anguish. She urged her to stay strong and fight for her marriage, reminding her of the love and commitment they had once shared. Lola assured Tolani that she was on her way to their house and would be there to support her through this difficult time. Tolani felt a small measure of comfort from Lola's words. She knew she wasn't alone in this ordeal and that Lola's presence would bring some much needed strength and clarity. As she waited for Lola's arrival, she reflected on the turmoil of the past months and the uncertainty of the future. The atmosphere in the house remained tense. Yemi was still grappling with the realization of his mistakes, and Cynthia was consumed by fear and guilt. The household, once filled with warmth and love, was now a place of confusion and heartache. Tolani knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but with Lola's support, she felt a glimmer of hope. She was determined to find a way to navigate the complexities of her situation and protect her unborn child. As the evening progressed, Tolani prepared herself for Lola's visit, knowing that difficult conversations and discussions lay ahead. The weight of the recent revelations hung heavy in the air, and the journey towards healing and resolution had only just begun. Yemi finally found his voice amidst the chaos. His anger and frustration boiled over, and he ordered Cynthia to pack her things and leave his house immediately. His anger was so intense that he even tried to rough handle her, but Tolani intervened, stopping him from acting on his rage. Cynthia, filled with shame and sorrow, packed her belongings, tears streaming down her face. She sobbed as she left the house, feeling the weight of her actions and the consequences they had brought upon her. With Cynthia gone, Yemi turned to Tolani, his face etched with regret. He begged for her forgiveness, his voice pleading and desperate. But Tolani, her heart shattered by his betrayal, wasn't ready to forgive him. The pain was too fresh and too deep too. As the scene unfolded, Lola arrived at the house. She saw Cynthia leaving, her face a picture of sorrow. Entering the house, she witnessed the tension and hurt that filled the room. Lola joined Yemi in begging for Tolani's forgiveness, but she could see the immense pain in Tolani's eyes. Lola, aware of Tolani's pregnancy and the stress it was causing her, knew that staying in this toxic environment would not be good for her. She gently urged Tolani to come with her to her house, offering her a safe space to heal and find some peace. Tolani, still reeling from the betrayal and heartache, agreed. She needed time away from the place where her trust had been shattered. Together, she and Lola left the house, Yemi watching them go with a heavy heart. He felt the pain of his actions as he watched the two women walk away. Yemi stood there, feeling a mix of regret, guilt, and sorrow. The reality of his mistakes hit him hard. He had lost his wife's trust and had driven her away. He knew he had a long road ahead if he ever hoped to earn her forgiveness and rebuild their relationship. The house, now empty and silent, felt like a hollow shell of what it once was. Yemi was left to reflect on his actions and the choices that had led him to the painful moment. He knew he had to make amends, but he also understood it would take time and patience. Tolani, meanwhile, found solace in Lola's home. She was surrounded by love and support, which she desperately needed as she navigated the complexities of her emotions. The journey towards healing had begun, but it would be a slow and arduous process. The event of that day marked a turning point for everyone involved. The secrets had been exposed, the lies unraveled, and the consequences faced. Now it was a matter of finding a path forward, one that would lead to healing, forgiveness, and hopefully a brighter future. Yemi, left alone in the empty house, couldn't bear the silence and the weight of his guilt. The next day, he decided to go to his family house to confide in his father. He hoped his father could offer some guidance and perhaps help him mend the broken piece of his life. When Yemi arrived at his family home, his father was sitting in the living room reading a newspaper. Yemi approached him with a heavy heart, feeling a mix of shame and desperation. He began to explain everything that had happened in his house, how he had been deceived by Cynthia, the affair and the betrayal Tolani had faced. His father's face grew stern as he listened. His father was very mad at him. He couldn't believe the foolishness and hurt Yemi had caused. Yemi sat listening like a child being scolded, feeling the full weight of his father's disappointment. He knew he had made grave mistakes, and hearing it from the father made it all more real. After his father had finished expressing his anger and disappointment, Yemi pleaded with him to help him talk to Tolani. He explained how much he regretted his actions and how desperately he wanted to make things right. He begged his father to help him win back Tolani's forgiveness. His father asked him if he knew where Tolani was staying. Yemi told him that his sister Lola had taken her in. His father nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He picked up the phone and called Lola, asking her to come to the house and bring Tolani with her. Yemi's father knew that this wasn't going to be easy. Tolani had been deeply hurt, and it would take more than just words to heal the wounds. But he also knew that family support was crucial in times like this. He hoped that by bringing Tolani to their home, surrounded by family, they could start the process of reconciliation. As Yemi sat in his father's house, waiting for Lola and Tolani to arrive, he felt a mixture of hope and anxiety. He knew he had a lot to make up for, but he was determined to do whatever it took to win back Tolani's trust and love. The hours seemed to drag on as Yemi waited. He thought about all the times he had taken Tolani for granted and the pain he had caused her. He vowed to himself that if given another chance, he would never let her down again. Finally, the sound of a car pulling up outside broke the silence. Yemi's heart raced as he stood up, knowing that Lola and Tolani had arrived. He took a deep breath, preparing himself for the difficult conversation ahead. Lola and Tolani arrived at the family home, their hearts heavy with uncertainty. They were surprised to see Yemi there, but they didn't say a word to him. Instead, they greeted Yemi's father, who welcomed them warmly and rushed to offer them a seat. He brought refreshment to help make them comfortable, sensing the tension in the air. Unknown to Tolani, Yemi's father had also invited her parents. He believed that their presence would make it easier to convince her to forgive Yemi. Shortly after Lola and Tolani arrived, Tolani's parents walked in, adding another layer of support and familiarity to the gathering. With everyone seated, Yemi's father began to speak, addressing reason for the gathering. Yemi stood up, his heart pounding with nervousness and regret. He looked at Tolani, her face showing the pain she had endured, and he pleaded with her to forgive him. He told her how empty the house had felt without her, how much he missed her presence and love. Tolani was proving difficult to convince. The hurt and betrayal she had experienced were not easy to forget. Sensing the struggle, Lola stepped in. She urged Tolani to forgive and forget, reminding her of the unborn child she was carrying. She spoke gently but firmly, emphasizing the importance of family and the future they could build together. Yemi's eyes widened with shock when he heard Lola mention the unborn child. He had no idea that Tolani was pregnant. Overcome with emotion, he rushed to Tolani, gently touching her stomach. Tears welled up in Tolani's eyes as she felt his touch, a mixture of sadness and hope washing over her. Yemi pleaded even more earnestly, promising that he would never hurt her again. He vowed to be a better husband and father, asking for another chance to make things right. Tolani, feeling the sincerity in his words and support of their families, eventually forgave him. The room filled with relief and joy as they embraced, their hearts beginning to heal. There was a sense of celebration in the air. The family members shared in the joy of the reunion, thankful for the resolution of the conflict. Yemi and Tolani decided to renew their vows, promising to cherish and support each other through all life's challenges. The ceremony was simple but heartfelt, surrounded by their loved ones. Yemi and Tolani exchanged their vows once again, their eyes filled with hope and determination. They pledged to love and honor each other, to build a future with happiness and trust. From that day forward, they worked hard to rebuild their relationship. Yemi kept his promises, treating Tolani with love and respect she deserved. Tolani, in turn, found it in her heart to move past the hurt and embrace the love they shared. Together, they created a home filled with laughter, love, and new memories. Their family grew, and they faced life challenges hand in hand, always remembering the lessons they had learned. And so, they lived happily ever after, their hearts united by forgiveness, love, and the unbreakable bond of family. And with that, my dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures, where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonder, and endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.